Chipping does not have to be complicated, but in a couple of these shots, there is something that I am doing that nearly every single one of you does that really hurts your chipping consistency. I'm going to show you how to refine it and how to get the ball close no matter where you are around the greens in just 3 simple steps. Step number 1 is all about using the bounce and reducing the likelihood that you're going to duff these stupid little shots, because it really is kind of easy. All you need to do around the greens to reduce the likelihood of this club digging in, because we don't want it to dig into the turf too much. If it digs in, we have a very short margin of error. We want to be increasing our margin of error. So this club is not going to dig in. We're not trying to help it up. It is going to bounce. Bounce with the sole of the club here. That's what's going to give us all the forgiveness and confidence around the greens. And this tiny little adjustment, instead of it lying flat on the floor, your club, all you're going to do is raise the handle. So there's a bit of air underneath here. What that's going to do is even more so reduce the amount of friction and contact this has on the bottom. So it's going to reduce the likelihood of hitting a bad shot, of digging into the ground. It's going to bounce off with consistency. That's the basics of why. So how do we adjust our setup? Well, we first want to make sure that we're not doing a mini golf shot. Make sure that you are not standing way far from the ball or too wide a stance or bent over this way, trying to just do a short mini swing. It is a chip shot, there is a certain technique for it. But what I want you to do is make sure you're standing a little bit closer. So the ball is about under your eyes, approximately, okay? You can even stand a little bit nearer. And what you're going to do is allow the hands to raise this shaft so it's a bit steeper. We don't want it vertical, we want it about here. That's where it would be lying flat. That's vertical. We want it, you know, about 1/3 of the way back down from vertical. So I stand a little bit closer. Now I make my action without that club digging in. And that is the only adjustment I make for step 1. And from here I can make my technique. But this next part is the biggest mistake I see that nearly every golfer makes when it comes to shots around the green. Step 2 is quite an interesting one because most people don't even realize they are doing it. Having your arms form a very rigid triangle here. Now, it is a very good, decent tip to maintain the triangle. If you see from my shoulders to my arms here, if I put those hands together, I'm forming a triangle. However, the problem with this is the way we formulate this triangle. Most people have too much tension, okay? Too much tension here. So the forearms get rigid, the grip gets tighter, and we are squeezing those arms in a little bit. And that tension is what is killing us. So yes, we want to keep and maintain a triangle in our technique, okay? But we have to reinforce and utilize our natural build. So do me a favor, stand up from your chair or wherever you're at, okay? Just stand normally, take a bit of a golf posture, a chipping setup, if you will, all right? And I want you to let your arms hang. Don't put the hands together, but let your arms hang. Now, I want you to notice something. Your arms have a natural slight curvature, okay? That is their natural position. And the more we contort this and squeeze them together and, you know, try and keep them tight, that tension forms. And when that tension forms, that causes a rocking action, which reduces the margin of error. So the easiest tip, but you have to get over the hurdle of it might feel a bit strange even though it's the most natural thing in the world, is to let your arms hang, but all you're doing is drawing the hands together. And I do have an amount of connection with the upper chest and my upper arms here. I'm not clamping the elbows in. I'm not rigid. My Grip is firm, but my wrists are supple. And my forearms are very supple, but I'm connected up at the top. And that is my guide. It's here, my chest and my torso, that is primarily doing the action. Yes, I can use my hands, but this is the engine for me. The core is the engine. The chest is the engine. And this is what is rotating and turning around. Rigid is going to cause this shot, or we're so tight we end up kind of flipping it. More supple, instead of it being so up and down, if we have a natural hang and we use our chest, it's going to feel a little bit more rotational. We're a little bit rounder in this manner. We're using the chest to brush, and I can feel the weight of this club, but my arms are hanging very, very naturally so I can hit this shot. Before we get to the third step, I want to give you a little bonus tip. Don't always use a sand iron or a lob wedge around the green. We don't have to make it as hard as we need. Really, all we're trying to do, if you remember, is get this stupid thing close to that flag, close to the hole. Really doesn't matter how you do it. But when you use a sand iron versus a 9-iron, a lot of times you're going to have more margin for error with this one because it's a shorter action. More mistakes can happen and get a decent result. So if you haven't tried it before, or if you're just a little bit unsure, practice some chipping with your 9-iron. It's sort of in between a bump and run, but the technique is very similar to what we are covering here. And just with the slightest, easy, small shots with the same technique, the ball will pop up and roll out. You've got to practice to sort of get used to it. But that shot there, when I'm waffling away to you, was about an average result because it's not that hard. So if your goal is to score lower, try practicing with a 9-iron a bit more often and use it out on the course. I promise you, you'll notice a difference. Number 3. Now I'm just in the rough, just off the green. And the reason why I'm showing you here is it's not shot specific, but this is where it's going to pay the most amount of dividends because it is about getting through. Too often we kind of just stop and quit our lower body and our intent. We're sort of a bit worried getting it out of the rough or getting it onto the green or enough height. So we end up sort of chopping into it, flipping through it, trying to guide it. So I want to give you one task with step 3, and that is to get through, okay? Of course we apply step 1 and number 2, but we are making sure that our belly button and our chest is going to face the target just a little bit more. I'm not lifting up too much here, but I'm also not allowing the hands and the arms to win the race. Everything is connected with the upper body, with the soft, natural arms. And I'm using that chest to rotate through. That's it. There's your 3 steps. But doing that on a rough shot, you know, just around the greens, on an upslope, is going to make sure that you really do commit to getting through and accelerating with some positivity. Raise the shaft. Allow the wrist to hang a little bit more naturally, and then get through. Get that chest through. That's what's going to give you the consistency, the confidence, and the enjoyment. This is golf simplified. So there we have it. What do I want you to do next? I want you to go and check out this lesson, because even though I've given you 3 steps that are going to make it a lot easier, I haven't told you everything. And to really accelerate your short game and lower your scores, I want you to learn this. And when you do, you're going to thank me. I'll see you next time.